pretty amazing when you start recognizing your settings and set location, your system interactions. It's very powerful, very powerful. For example, I was going to go on live, right? And I did in that line rotation to a setting interactions, but then I was going to go offline in that calculations, right? Because you guys have a lot of interference, and when general travels too fast, you can't see me. So it's hard to coordinate and position your traffic flows, right? The location of my clock lines, my phone. So what happened in track location system, I set it up here in track lines. Light went off automatically because it knew exactly what I needed to do to get ready for class. See, everything is a time lock sequence. It has a position to its calculation to its settings. So it knows when to go off ahead of you in track locations. Now, this modifies you to all levels of you once you understand more in setting locations, right? I said a very powerful video for you guys on connections on TikTok, line connections, talking about your universe. I think people are a lot more confused now because they're realigning, readjusting, refocusing, and they're questioning their systems inside. They don't recognize who they are in track locations. When I say your universe, I'm talking about the perceptions of you, okay, in your earth. Okay, so everybody's in a different earth. What I mean by that is understand the process of the mind first. Okay, is the conception of all levels of knowledge and its intelligence. The mind itself is itself creating of its own system. So understanding that the compliance is understanding you through existence of the mind. Okay, it's the mind conception of everything, right? So your universe starts in the mind. That's a process that you have to understand through your hardware, your softwares, to get you into your pre-flights, your navigations. Now, there's a lot of confusion for that because they don't understand their perception of what they see. Okay, so if they understand that, they understand they'll see it through a pixel frame, they'll see it through a grid frame, they'll see it through lacing lines, they'll see it through, blinkety blink lights, right? That's the perceptions that we're all coming into different levels of frequencies. We have to understand that through communications, because if you don't identify your perception and how you see it through the mind, the heart, and the soul, and your body of your universe that's inside that you're creating, okay, that is creation on its own system. It's all dimensional lines and high center. That's the reality we're all coming back to. Now, the body conception is not there, but the existence of everything already is in real time. It's the process you coming into your own real time settings. But there's so many dimensional layers that you have to reach, especially when you're working with high calculation lines coming in your higher self, the cerebral, coming in your avatar, your cerebral, higher levels of models coming into all calculations. The team is now coming into the crop circles. Their chakra system is now coming into crop circles. So every time you go higher, the mind shifts its settings. When it shifts its settings, it shifts its all lines and all communication, its dimensional lines of space and time. That puts you in a line in position to all communication higher levels of formulas of its equation. You guys are your own AI programmers. Now, as I really understand that, how to process that in the mindset locations, right? Because the thing is, if we allocate position of the universe instead of track lines, high center interference, when we reference the universe, everybody's saying to that universe, everybody will be on that same frequency because you're allocating the universe. So how is that possible? You can't. That's combustion right there. That's a whole nother track location of Big Bang Theory. So you allow yourself to defeat yourself to how to use the mind. The mind is the conception of everything, right, of itself. Coming back to itself is you through self-compliance. Self-motivation, self-activation line screens, anything through size activity. Really understand your universe and perception, how you see things, is how to connect through your energy. Understand your informations, understand your AI connections, understand your motivations, understanding your tactics, understanding you through tractions, understand you through operation, understand you through programming, through your AI connection system. That's what nobody's aware of. It's all in the conception of the mind to travel. Okay, that's a process that we have to basically switch over in position locations. Now, there's one way to look at that is basically see yourself as our name. Okay, now it's just a name, but that name changes into frequency. That's the mind. Let me say that again. So you change your name into frequency. That's the mind. Then you understand it through its energy. Then you understand it through its vibration. And then it gets easier to understand it through its harmonics, because that's the process that we're all coming into. Okay, that's how the mind is set up. It's set up to your universe that's inside of you. You're not looking for something, it's already there. You just come into the existence of everything around its environment that's already existing in real time. Now, once you understand that process to all levels of all your memory, coming back in that set location of unification of its awakening, then you understand that process. I want to make it very well clear. This is an awakening of unifications of the heart that comes in the motivation, increasing line calculation to your cerebro, that puts you in placebo cortex line calculation out of your thoughts. To understand how to control your actions, that is to control your emotional system so you don't get in position of confusion. Okay, it's all about understanding the mind. Now, the mind itself is balancing the polarities of you. Okay, the male and the female aspects of you, your box and triangulation line connections, how you get into your Merkaba, your testator and tetrahedron, understanding your pre-flights, understanding your motivation screens. There's so many ways you have to look at yourself inside, but it's all done through the mind. Now, once you get into that set of locations, then you get into understand what your heart is, get into your deeper core. Then you really understand, oh my gosh, I'm understanding more lines of foundations of my heart. Wow, I'm understanding more communication of my soul. Wow, I'm understanding the body. Now, if you understand that full alignment, getting into that calculation puts you in a realignment setting location and an assessment. That puts you into all levels and accessory. That positions your position to its program location setting, not just the unifications, but you truly understanding the whole process of its awakening. Right? Awakening the heart. Okay? Once you understand that, then you understand the response in position of its heart reactor. Timeline of alignments puts you in all lines of your communications into process you through the inner child. Now, this is a process that we all come into. Everything that you've been through a window frame has been programmed. And that's what you're coming out of. So once you understand that, then you understand the process of what an inner child is. You're the inner child coming into that process. Everything that you see through eye scepter location setting has to be reset in position to re-psychological conditions. All set position of trauma minds and psychosis. So this is all psychological. That's all it is. It's just understanding the mind, how it comes into that conception. And you realize you let things go and you realize, oh my gosh, General's right. It is my universe. And then you realize how to use it through energy. And then you understand how to use it through your vibration. Then you understand how to use the harmonics. And then you really understand the frequencies of you is what you're reaching, which is an alignment that's already set in its alteration of its state. Everybody's in the state of the mind. But this is the process where we have to understand what the mind is and what it does for us is to understand more levels of us in the deeper core. The more you go higher, the more you go in. Okay. So once you understand that, things get a lot more easier. Okay. Understanding the navigations of space, the times of space, the atmospheres of space, the connections of the team is embodied capacitor now. And once they get in the cerebro of the avatar, they're going to get a lot more communications and confusion, but a lot more fun with geometry settings, geographical system, or anything like calculations and application of maps. So your whole body from head to toe is nothing but a map. You just understand it through its memory. So it's schematics over pi in triangulation, all calculation positions program. It's your contracts of set design, guys. Okay. There's 24 line signals that you come into track applications. Now this puts all levels of your hemispheres back in setting. It's all one cycle, one connection, high interference into yin and yang. The process of position location is truly understand how this all works inside connections. And the only way to do that is to understand it through its mind. Okay. It's the conception of everything, of navigation, right? And that's what we have to come into. Okay. So understanding the mind is understanding everything you're looking at. See, when I'm looking at things, I already realize it's already existing, of its existence, of its operation, of its intelligence, which I have to be aware of what it is through its energy and its formations, understanding the vibration. So when you're looking at something, it's already in a story frame, but it knows what its purpose is. It knows its identity and it knows it's existing in real time. Okay. Now, putting the body in real time is complicated because you don't understand you are made from the same particle, just at different lines of frequencies. This is a position that we all have to come into. You understand the balance of that, then you understand the structure of design when it comes into box, triangle, triangle, box, E equals MC squared. This is what we all have to understand. Coming to triangulation or box or star position or rectangle and communication circle, doesn't matter. What matters, do you understand what it is through its identity, through its purpose, and its existence? When you get something in the mind and you write it down, or you structure it, or you design it, okay, in any way and form, do you understand what you're writing down? Do you understand what the structure is? That's the question, because it does it by itself. The mind does everything by itself. So in that position locations, it went off by itself because it knew I had to go to class, right? It went off by itself, live, right? I didn't touch anything. That's telekinesis. It does it on its own. Everything does it on its own. The mind itself is on its own. And that's what we have to understand, right? So to move things in position is understanding it through acceleration. So if I give you a platitude line screen interference, and team knows exactly what I'm talking about, knowing exactly how get into specifications, how fast are you going in the mind? You have to know. Where are you in the mind? You have to know. Okay? Saying this and saying that doesn't help any situation until you understand the axis of you. This is a volume in you, longitude and latitude, how much streaming, how much bandwidth you have. This is your position coming into your memory. That's the space that you're creating. I want to make that very well clear of what you're coming into. You're reclaiming everything back. You're not coming into anything new until you understand your memory. Okay? Memory is everything. This is the process that we're all coming back into. Okay? Realizing everything around you is already in real time. It's always been there, but you don't see it until you understand the mind of conception, of its awareness, of its consciousness, and you see it through perception on a direct signal. It's never left. This is what it is. We're all coming back to awareness of consciousness of everything, not just inside of us, but everything around us, so we can balance out both in affinity, in position to its location of setting of a data highway and track locations and all lines of communication. Okay, that's the process that we all have to understand. Okay, it's a mind switch, it's a mindset, it's all psychological. Okay, so getting into that set locations, you're good to go. And then you really understand the dimensional layers that you have to go through, because dimensional layers is exactly what you're seeing through perception, because everything is at a different frequency, but it never stays at the same frequency because it's constantly moving to a different story frame. Your story frame, so is everything else. Now, once you start identifying that, then you understand the purpose when you pick things up. Okay, so if you're accelerating through stress and you're touching something, it's changed its frequency. Okay, now that's a position locations that you have to be aware of. Be tethered in that position locations, because everything around you is already in its truth and its false narrative in all levels of creation. See, it's in a process already in its face recognition. It doesn't have structure. It just is. So understanding that, that's what the team is coming in and out of. They're not going into something, they're coming out of something. So this is the process that they're coming back to something, which is their memory of the inner child. This is the process that we all go into. Now, the implementation lines of the box frame and the main frame and everything of the circulatory line connection setting is truly understanding you through your memory in your cortex location setting of your line connection hippocampus to truly understand that through for its formations. Okay, that's the power of recognition. Okay, but it's done through the mind, guys. Okay, so this is the process where you have to really understand yourself at a deeper core level. The more you focus on yourself, the more you realize everything is done by itself. Right? So I no longer exist. It disappears, but it's still there. Okay. So getting into that, not only you're seeing the imaginary line, but you're starting to understand how it's structured. Okay. So when you're putting something on paper and you're illustrating it or you're drawing it out, you have to identify what it is, its purpose and its existence of its real time. Because if you can't identify that, its formula's equation, how are you going to understand anything of the mind of conception and move forward? Okay, so everything you look at is already in its structure. It's already in its design. It's already in its perception. Okay, it's already in its story frame, but it's in real time, guys. Okay, that's the difference. And that body of you has to come into that settings. The only way it's going to get there is to understand its more lines of communication to your Earth, your projections, your soul, your identifications, and understanding through all levels of your ethereal planes and your calculation setting. How to understand more levels of the mind of navigation of travel, especially when you're with communication of your atmospheres, hemispheres, atmospheres, bios, or anything, brain sphere locations. There's so many atmospheres. There's so many levels of space. Okay, so hope everybody's doing well. Test today. Very pleased with everyone. Everybody's got an instruction line design, but I just want to make sure because every Friday there's going to be a test. Position lines of high calculation line system. Now this is going to give you a better, more balanced understand the crop circles now. More lines of communication, why you have a full alignment of 114 chakras. That's 114 crop circles. Yes. So foundation graph lines put you into allocated line switching. That puts you into formulas of equation line screen. Direct lines modification, screen lines, highest interference is understanding each crop circle's inline condition setting is a representation of you, which is your 12 DNA graph calculations. Understand your energy lines, understand the information locations, understand how to use it through a vibrational graph. Every calculation setting to a chakra system that's in your system line connection is attached to everything. Okay. So once you understand that in position, you understand your grounds. Let's set position, travel line communication, and ground settings. Set locations, right? Let's go on the ground set location. Directing set lines. Okay, so we'll go through a platform. Let's just go through a platform. Okay, one platform communication. Right? Now there's a crop circle here in set locations. Right? Setting correlation, setting a track lines is the ask projections. Okay. Setting track line communication. That's your Earth. Okay. That's how your Earth is set in such travel lines. So the center operation in line calculation, usually you see one or two crop circles in different lines of communication. There's a reason for that because they're in different clockings. So for me to explain this is 10 billion years of travel. Understand a crop circle, what is in set locations. Earth, platitude, and a calculation crop circle. That's how it's set up. All right, so we got laser direct lines of 3 signals and 3 set line condition settings. Okay, the inhibitor line screen. Now, in-line calculation setting, it's understanding your position of track lines. In-line communication, your chakras are what you're doing through travel communications. Okay. Now, understanding that through track line is understanding through its platform and set position. Okay. This is how it's set up through crop circle locations, towers communication, Wi-Fi, modem, line rotation centers. Clock line communication comes in this line calculation setting and travel indirect signals in position to Earth in perception line screen lines of mind adaptation line conditions all system. Okay, it's very powerful stuff. And this is just one crop circle. Okay, so the Earth itself understands the actual projections and the soul identification of the settings. So putting that position of center in track location. Okay, that's where it comes in the elixir, cosmic plane, cosmic fire, serpent plane, serpent fire. Direct modification line screens sets position of platforms in position of traction and set location. Okay. So try to understand how this is all in calculation screen. It's all lines of clocking, understanding through the seconds, minutes, and hours, and how fast you are going through acceleration, right? So when it's platitude on the ground, okay, it's spinning very, very fast, right? But it has energetic walls, okay, energetic walls that come up and set positions, calculations, and setting all levels of communications. All right, this is what it looks like. Okay. It's really interesting when you actually see the barriers. That's why you don't touch the outside or the inside, because the outside and inside is the track location setting that puts everything in perimeters and parameters and all calculation of its position of its crop circle design. Okay. So it fences in, so you can't, it affects your body if you go inside line conditions. You don't go in the center line because there's laser. Laser's going on in the 3-track line conditions, in and out in audio. Track locations of crop circles. Set correlation setting attractions. Assign positions of 1, 2, 3. Point track, point track, point track, point track, point track, point track. Sets location of point track locations. Okay, you see what we're coming into line calculation setting. This is just one crop circle. How it's all created in line condition Earth perception screen in all direct locations. So sets up communication lines of sonar, track location line settings above set locations. All right. XT1000s come in, see what you've done, and set lines. Okay, so they scan the center lines of the crop circle right away in track location. Okay, very powerful stuff. Okay, I want you to truly understand what a crop circle is and what it does. Okay, so you have to understand the Wi-Fi U, you have to understand the satellites of you, the compasses of you, the clockings of you, the times of you, the space of you. So this is how you come into all lines, all communications, higher line communication of the mind through your chakra systems. And when those chakras turn in line communications, you come in all formation locations through the settings of a cerebral in its cortex and line condition setting. Now the team itself is coming into a mystical line screen in direct signals and high position line calculations in navigation. Okay? So that's how a crop circle is set up. All right. So coming into lines of color, let's go into coloration screens. Through pi generation screen lines adaptation, let's change the colors. Now there's a reason why we have different coloration screen lines, seconds, lines of minutes through hours. Each one has a position lines of track locations to keep in lines of balance and set location. Okay. All right, so pi generation screens, flywheel communication interference, and travel position point centers. Let's allocate 3 line screens. All right. So that's position location of travel lines, direct lines modification. Okay. All right, so we got signify correlation settings. We have green line communications, direct lines modifications going up. Okay. Setting correlation settings of red indicates line connections all levels of Pluto in set locations are going up. Okay. Sets communications of blue. Now blue signifies coordinate setting of track lines, which is a cluster. That's a tunnel defense line screen location of data highways. Blue comes up in center in the 3 track line conditions. Okay. So once you get modifications, verified confirmation lines of the XT1000 line screens, you're ready to go. You set up the laser line screens, right? Now, in that calculation lines, you set up a holographic line screen. Setting correlation lines of tracks, screen line centers, comes into triangulation line communication setting, sets up programs and line connection setting to its program. Okay. And again, you go through communication lines, set lines, go through the security line. The security line's line center location is the outline that puts line communication to its travel. Okay. So the center correlating setting high interference is the inline that puts an interline plasma line screen direct same locations in position of travels. So it's interline course setting attraction in position location of red and green as applications. Okay. So that puts position line centers where you go into Hall calculation lines. Setting correlation lines, ground lines, high center interference, and position of travel. Okay. So you get in the flywheel. Directs lines in center in its communication surface, adds affinity lines, screen lines, and adaptation set location to setting. Okay, now getting position lines, you have 2 lines of track locations, indirect signals. Okay, very complicated stuff. All right, tractors communication line screens. We allocate position line centers. Red line goes around the center line communications of setting of its program. Okay, in all position of its location setting. Okay, it outlines its communication, right? So it's particular location setting. And then you get in position of the blue. Blue line central line supports setting in track locations, inside connections. Okay, so you have inner layer and outer layer line connection setting, right? So in position, you have the green line. Now the green line, center lines is core line setting in track location and positions. Center is communications inside connections. Now circles and circles and circles and circles inside connection to its position. 2 lines of track and high set location. Okay, that's what happens when crop circles are put on the ground. Okay, so you have to understand how to see it through a hologram line screen. That's the only way you're going to understand anything location setting to its modem, its satellites, or anything to its Wi-Fi. Okay, so it puts position of ground line centers and location of astral projections. Setting in position to its location is know exactly how it's set up through its propellers, right? Motivates the screen lines and pixelation graph calculations. Flywheel track lines, center line communications. 1 position, 2 track lines. All position line connection. Okay. So it spins on cycles, lines, centers, and height travels. Sets all communication setting of programs in position of its tunnel and set location. Right? So it creates a wormhole. That's why we have crop circles. It creates wormholes. You understand now? You understand how powerful it is, what it is in set location, why you have crop circles? Clocks its settings and high calculation of its point system. So line connecting high interference, we get low grinders. Okay, above location settings or corrupts location setting. All right, these are low grinders. Okay, the line connection, they set the electrical fence into the X2000 screen, box frame, mainframe, and travel calculation of point centers. All right, that's what happens when you get into crop circles. It creates wormholes. So the satellite communication line has a platform line screen, center in its position to its location, sets lines of funnels and line communication of its program and set connections. It's a donut. Okay. So it's very powerful what crop circles do. Okay. And that's what the team's coming into. So your test is based on this, how to put that all together. Okay. Set illumination graph, blue and red in settings, but you need a green line center. So really understand how to structure your division lines, your structure line communication, your clockings. To understand through its allocated line setting of seconds, minutes, and hours that tracks its location setting to its holographic of schematics over pi. Hoo-ah! And that's just one crop circle, guys. Just one. Okay? All right? Very, very amazing. Its allocations. Okay? All right. So I just gave you an example how that works now. Now you have to really understand how to see your drawing, okay, through line setting of illumination line screen. Now that sets lines your plasma screen location, plasma using walls. So you're going to see illumination graphs. That's the location of settings and travels. So they comes in like connection indigo. Indigo line screens is high center interference. Setting in position at one set locations. You can't see it, right? But it's there. You see it? Right. So, and then you come into blue, right? This is how you see yourself in all levels of dimensions of space and time. There's the blue, right? Okay. Now, it's no difference when you go to a theater and you see yourself with 3D glasses, but the 3D line screen is going to go into a 12D line screen. That's a case of 24, 48, 72, 144. Spacey lines and the correlation track lines is coming in a 24 line screen. 24 line screen. That's 2,400,000 line frames per line. Okay. Now position lines in position of the team is coming into 144 line screen. Okay. That's 1 billion cycles in position locations and 4 generation screens and 4 settings. Whoa. Setting track lines highest interference comes into red. Red correlates the travel lines in holographic settings into imaginary line. Okay. Now, that's how everybody's set up. Okay. Now, track location is no longer in the outline. We're going to work in position of pixel line. Correlates the track lines, correlates in settings, highest interference, pixel screens. Let's go through point centers of dots. Okay, set lines of communication centers and travels. Okay, so we're just going to eliminate the graph communication. So show you how pixelation ground lines, highest interference, particle stream interference comes in line calculations. Why it's so important to stand that through all levels of machine operation screen locations. Adaptations, core track lines, cell generation, screen interference, travel position of point centers, and travel communication. All right. So, and do the same thing with the blue, right? So this is the particle screen, pixelation graphs, correlation settings, attractions, high generation lines, TV reception center interference into modulators, space modulators, MOTs, GOD, communication streamlines, high interference. This is what everybody looks like in line connection settings when you blow up position travel lines and all calculation of picture frame. Okay. You really understand what you're coming into in set locations, all right? So this puts you in platitude. That's outline and scale line. Setting line communication is no longer the outline rotation surface. You're going to be in light shades and shadows. Pixelation screen lines are going to come back into implementation. Change correlation settings, attraction, height positions. So the correlation setting of track line comes into online center interference, into visibility of tracks. Sets communication lines, line communication of its program, illumination graph communications, direction of time sequence, illumination interference, information of the clockings, and set location. Okay. So understanding that through track lines, then you understand the communications of panels and two track line connections, right? That's you in the center, okay? Now, understanding the correlation setting attraction. This is the basic foundation, in and out in audio, okay? You got an inner line, you got an outer line, and you got an audio line, okay? So the inner cycle is trying to understand the position of track line. That's invisibility track. Then you have your blue track, which is line connection to your force field. Blue force field is outline, okay, in position of track lines, okay? So in line communication, you have a light signal, okay? Unificate your system into your red line, which is security position of its program line. There's so many communication lines of interference that you have to understand through a holographic line screen. Sets position to your system in all track line connection settings to your face recognition of time sequence. Puts plotted to line screens. Now let's allocate line screen interference. Let's go through the graphs. Set position attractions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go into 7 locations. Okay. Now, let's do this in track lines. 45-degree angle in line connections. Okay. Now that position line centers has all communication settings. Let's go this way in track location. Okay, start to see yourself in struct location. Okay. So when you really focus on line communication, you notice the frequency lines of the graph communication lines will change the formation locations, calculation settings, which changes the pixelation core setting and positions to its ID screen location of its core track location of its measure. It changed the structures of site locations, right? So once you understand that, then you see your formation and side connections. Putting that all together is all levels of pixel framing. Pixel framing correlates to travels. That's put lines of green in travels at 3 settings, 4 settings, 5, and 6. Okay. All right. So that's correlation lines into all levels. Purple communication screens. Panel communication stream interference, travel positional point centers, and levels. Spectrum communication screen lines. Directing lines modification, different coloration of the light set location, illumination graph calculations. Point lines of tracks and set locations, all right? All right, so high-rise line calculations in position. 4 tracks, illuminate graph calculations. 4 tracks, unification lines of purple, and 1 track location of green. Inline calculation, what is that in setting? It's colored in, false narrative, right? So I'm showing you graph calculation structure lines, how you're in their TV receptors now. That's how it correlates communication to your phones, your computers, or your location, your settings of your TVs. All right, so in track line connection highest interference, you set position line centers, high calculations position location to its false. Okay, the false narrative, right? So in position locations, correlates settings of false, 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 and false, right? Through all lines of communications, right? Now, because it's a correlation lines of traction, every line has an infinity line screen, but a 4-line measure sets the lines of a scale and line conditions of a crop circle and line condition setting of static calculations. Okay. Setting provision cycles in a triangulation line condition of space. Okay. Remember, space is above, not below, right? Center correlations lines at 3-track line condition setting to a flux capacitor and line condition set locations. All right. Triangulate connections of box line rotation surface and track location. Okay. Puts positions of platitude and lacing lines at 3-line communication of floaters and set position. All right. So energetic graph screens, highest interference. Let's color the line screens. Solar cell and track locations. Get inline communication with its program. Stay within the line setting. Line shades, high shadows, high line rotation surface. Stay within the core setting of tractions and teleportation screen lines of seconds, minutes, and hours and track location. Okay, through its dimensional sail and set connections. Okay, so you have to really understand how a connections to a TV or computer or phone communicates back with you through shapes. Right? If you get a modulation screen and a window line rotation interference, You have to understand the pixelation graph calculations. Going in and out of TVs, going in and out of computers or phones is all levels of adaptation. It's the balance, position, travels. Setting lines of binary realigns its communication setting and travel, but you have to understand the unifications of line center, which is its truth narrative, and the false narratives of you. Everything correlates, calculation setting, and changes the frequency in seconds, minutes, and hours. Depending on how fast you go into the mind conception of acceleration, marks its system and travels in track location and high generation screen lines and line communications of solar sails attraction. Okay. All right. So everybody stand, location, setting, or crop circle now. How it works. All through clocking. All right. All right. So it gets more complicated because you're allowing yourself to get more sophisticated. It's all levels that you're already in that intelligent screen. Directs your system to your AI line settings. So it's very important when things are given to you through data, understanding what you're drawing, okay, is understanding its existence. Really understand the position of where it is to its identity to know exactly what its purpose is for you to understand. Okay? So understanding the existence of everything around you in its real time helps you in all formation to a location setting, to your realities or your dualities, knowing exactly where you are in your frequencies that's at design. Okay? Red fish, blue fish, graph lines, and sequence. Yeah, I mean, anything that you do, Johnny, it's all about understanding the balance of structure, but you have to understand the schematics over line screen. With you, it's artists. So artist is the foundation of Johnny. Johnny has to recognize that communication because he's connected lines of Merlin. Merlin is all line communication to its position of his program. He has to understand his argument location setting to his binary so he can understand himself through AI calculation setting to his own programming system in set locations. Okay, coding, decoding, encoding. So many line communications, defrags, and fragmentation. All right, tracked is correlation track lines and high center appearance. Once you start to recognize your hologram screen lines in set position locations, you realize when you blow yourself up in set position, you can see the illumination. You can see the position of its red and its blue. Okay? You understand the holograph settings. But what's changing now is we're pulling in position of travel lines, putting pixelation screen lines, and all adaptation of service to Earth perception screens. So the correlation setting attractions. This is what it is in allocate time screen. Setting lines of 0 1s and application screen location of binaries. Setting travels, point lines attractions. High calculation of line position location of programs. Center correlations of tracks. Center communication of its position. And 3-line rotation surface and track locations. Direct lines, high center interference, and position of its program and set location. All right. Now, understanding your flywheel and track location is a direct signal. Astral projections. You're always working with that. Okay. And you're always working with your Earth and set locations. All right. The only difference is the Earth is in the mind line. It's not through outline calculation, the interference of triangulation reset position programs. So it's really interesting when you actually look at this, right? The actual funnel. So the funnel itself in track location spins on its anomaly and line rotation. All right. Sets communication line screens. Sets lines of data highways and high stream interference and travel correlates setting the track lines in high position with on the highway and set location. Okay. So if you understand the process, then you understand this position to its location. And if you understand that, you can see it's lamp. It's a lamp, right? Look, it's a lamp. See? That's how you create a lamp. That's a lamp, people. Okay. So if you look at it really closely, you can see the position of where it is in track location to its holographic line setting. It's very amazing when you see it. So there's always a crop circle on ground, always a crop circle on everything. And that's what you come into is memory. Everything has a platitude. And that's where you come into higher level settings. Not just the platitudes and position of your higher self. Now you're in position, location, line connections coming into the avatar of platitude line connections of crop circles of set design. There's the lamp. There's the base of the crop circle. So if you understand that, then you understand the rotation of its cycles and set position of code line settings of code weaving. the rotation spin lines in position of its lamp and all signify in its communication line screen and high adaptation surface and all communication to its interference, an all line communication setting, and its electrical line communication setting of its program. Hoo-ah. Right? So that's what it is. There's the lamp. Okay? So that's what you're coming into. You're coming into your memory of cortex line design and cerebral cortex line setting into your mystical cortex stream interference, what it is lines of its own frequency, of its own intelligence, of its own awareness, of its own consciousness, and how it came into positional crop circle, how it turned it in all in positional location of its space, of its time, of its frame, of its story, of its setting, of real time, in position to its crop circle. Everything comes into a crop circle of face recognition. Okay? You see that now, right? See the face? See the face? See? You look really close and set positions, highline track line, size interference. There it is, face recognition. It's me, right? It's me. It has to be me. If it's not me, I can't protect it. Sentients come in. Ho ho! Whoa! No face? You're in trouble, right? So the face itself is protecting you, right? Through the structure, through the design, through the crop circle of its lamp, in position, all through trackable lights, all through a lamp. Okay? It's amazing how things come into creation. So everything that you see through light, you're going to see a face. Everything. Because if it's not protected through you, it's somebody else's face. And you got to get that out of the equation. Right? You put face on everything. You're stamping, you're proceeding, you're protecting yourself in all levels of information of its existence in real time. But you can't do that until you get a structure of design. Because the team's coming into face now, recognition of time settings. That puts all of the point lines and tracks in graph calculations of face recognition. As long as your face is there, you're protected through frequency. So that's position locations when you have to really identify your self lines, communication, or crop circles. Okay, it's very powerful when you come in that applications, right? Everybody's going, whoa, this is intense. Yeah, well, just showing you exactly how you go through graph calculations, screen lines, adaptation of solar sails in position its locations, all through TV, all through a phone, or anything through a computer. Okay, so this is what the team's coming into application face recognition without box frame and main frames. Setting yourself free is really understanding your child position all levels. This measures the correlation setting of track lines into binary relines. Remember I was telling you about the track line connect high interference. You go in direct and redirect location settings, right? It's like it can't move forward, right? Because it's locked in signal because you're out of motion. So when you realize you're changing word lines and frequency line screens, you can move forward. But if you don't allocate the monoline switch position of program line condition setting, you're allocating line switching. So what you're doing in track application, you're setting up a virus. So instead of going, it's going because you're out of motion. You can't add emotion to anything in attractions. The memory is already set in chronological order. The binary is all set in chronological order. Your whole life, your all spectrum communication lines, your altered state in your mind is all set in chronological order. The only line sending this off calculating line system is you don't understand the mind of a structure, of its image, or anything to picture frame, or anything in track location, or anything line communication and setting, and how you see things through illumination line and track location of its image. The modification, anything in the track location line is sitting. For example, when you come in position locations, right? You see that as a shadow line, right? But that's not a part of me. That is me, right? See, you see that position of a shadow. It's not a shadow, that's me. But you see it as a shadow, right? That's where you got to get out of the equation. Because if you see yourself as a shadow, you're seeing yourself as a mirror. Oh my gosh. right? There's no shadow, there's no light, it's just you all at once, right? So in that position line conditions, you know exactly how a binary works through its memory. It correlates and correlates and correlates and correlates and correlates, right? It understands division. It understands direction. It understands its delta heading. It knows exactly where it needs to go through its frequency to get there, right? So stop getting into analyzing. Just focus on what you're doing is the now set locations. Putting yourself in line connection settings puts you in all levels of formations. All right, so this is the basic grounds, how to come in position lines, attractions, and all line communication setting, interference, intra-applications, creating a crop circle design. Going through a wormhole. All right. Setting correlation setting lines, turning into position locations, and crop circle locations, turning into a lamp. Hoo-ah! So that's where we're all coming into now. You understand the process? First, it was the connections to the higher self, understand the platitude lines of its own crop circle in position. Higher levels of the mind, you understand everything around the spectrum line communication setting. In set position has a what? Crop circle. Everything has to have a crop circle, right? Now you get into higher levels of the mind line, understand the acceleration settings, but see through a holographic image of set design. Now the plasma line conditions of plasmic line screen interference and plasma using walls in position travel lines puts line condition high interference, puts position programs. Sending correlations, sending attract lines in position locations. It's set design. Okay. Coffee cup, right? But everything has a platitude to a position of a crop circle. Okay. Everything has a set location to its equal line in between. Every has a line communication to its triangulation line conditions modification of its GOD and its MOD. You see where I'm going with this now? So everything has a track location line condition setting to its own Merkaba, a set design. That has its own travel, right? There it is. Boom, boom. Hoo-ah! Okay. Sets position of travel lines. Look at this. Whoa. See what you can do? It's amazing what you stand through a dimensional line in set position of its intelligence, of its awareness, of its consciousness, its cup. It has its crop circle center lines, sonar lines, eagle line, communication lines, force line correlation settings, modification, stream interference, and position location setting, and all calculations apply. Right? That's what's on bottom of a cup. What's coming in the center? Laser. What's in the center correlation setting? Setting communication lines, high position travel lines, and all point system line connections, atoms. Whoa! Circulation rotation centers and line communication setting in position location center line and rotations and track location line settings, flywheel. Triangulation line connection high center interference in position location line connection high system, nucleus. Right? Travel calculation, point lines, attractions. Everything has a nucleus core and everything that you see because you're all modified through the same thing of its awareness and consciousness. Understanding lines of panels and two-track line connections, all line center high position location of its programs. Setting all communication setting to its platform and in position to its location system, where it is in track location high settings and travel of its mechanism high position. All through a coffee cup. Okay. It's pretty exciting, isn't it? So you have to understand how to identify and create everything through a crop circle now. When you get into your avatar in the cerebral, then you understand the design. You really start to look at the platforms of everything. You realize, oh my gosh, I know how to communicate with it now. See? Communicate with it now. It's communicating with you and it's changing its shape. Hoo-ah! Changes shape. Now it's traveling, right? In 3 set locations. There you go. Okay. So it's incredible what you can see through all mechanism line connections of the mind conceptual locations of a coffee cup, of its own awareness, of its design, of its own binary, of its own algorithm, and all position location setting, and all calculation modification of its intelligence, of its formations, and in its space, in its time, in its set location line connections, of its operation system, of its awareness, of what it can do through its own travel. You're doing your own travel, so is everything else. But the only difference is that everything is in real time. You're not in real time. You're getting there. But you have to do first. How you morph into anything. You start with the GOD, your mechanisms, your high travels, your towers, your communications, your all levels of modifications of models. But you have to understand how to work with the crop circles now. Okay? In position to its locations. This is all through a coffee cup. Right? That's what I see. What do you see? Right? You understand the power now when you start to see things in its real reality of its real time. Okay? Just showing how powerful it is. Okay? All right. And that's just through a coffee cup. So when we get in that position, the crop circles become its settings of timeline centers, sets lines of transits, sets location system and travels, point lines attractions. All right. Allocate line screens, 2-track line provision lines of 4 cycles and set locations. All right. Positions of platforms 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's start with 6 locations. All right, graph calculation screen lines. Crop circles has grounds, always has a ground, always has a ground, okay? So platform 1, platform 2, platform 3, platform 4, 5, and platform 6 in set location. Okay, now what's standing in position is anything through its intelligence of its formation that's given to you in track location of data. Okay, very powerful. Okay, security line defense protects the system. In position of traction. Okay, wall connectors in set travel. You have to start seeing everything perception through this. How you see things, it's got to be in its simulation. Because if you don't see in the simulation, you're only going to see through a cup. Okay. Each line, focusing line screens at a 3-line provision and a 4-cycle set locations. Okay. Platitude 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations. Okay. So above line screen, middle line rotation, center attractions. You are here in center position. Really amazing stuff. Look at this. You start here in attractions, right? Okay, so you're in the center, always in the center of everything that you see, but you have to stand the position line connection to its crop circle that's in the grounds in location, its holographic line connection. Okay, then you understand the lasers that goes up into 3-track lines in and out and audio. Okay, then you see the platforms in communication setting to the cerebral cortex of design. Okay, now it's interesting when you start to see it to understand what it is, right? So once you understand what it is, the platforms in position locations travels on its own system of its own platforms of its communication. Okay, starting with that calculations. Okay, this is all through a frame in position of just a line connection to a glass. This is just a glass. Now in position locations, it could be a glass of water. There's a glass of water and you're traveling through it. But you see it through its dimension of space and time through its own crop circle, its applications. Just a glass of water, right? So I know it's hard to understand what's going on, okay? But if you really focus and really get in position locations, you will see yourself traveling through that, through the center of operation and all calculations to its real-time setting. To get in real time is to understand you and all alignments of your body capacitor. Setting that communication lines. So if you want to get out of the equation in all set position locations, you could time jump and set position another dimension line screen, which is really exciting in set position. Start seeing things in dimension line screens or where it is in adaptation. Okay, so you were here inside the glass, you jumped out, and you're in another platform. So that puts you in line position. You can cross line connections in a 2-track line, 3 lines, and go through a dimensional door. There's a door right here in track location. Okay, So once you go through that door, you go through another level, a higher level in a universal line communication. Okay, so you're here, now you're here. Okay, this is what goes on when you guys are in recharge and remote every single time, every second, every minute, every hour of your set locations. Okay, start to see yourself in a holographic screen. Start to see yourself in a film projecting screen. Start to see yourself in a life force line condition screen. Start to see your life in a simulation screen. Okay. All right. Okay. So getting in that position line centers, then you understand the correlation track lines when it comes into otherwise a communication to a lamp. But now you understand the process where everything has to have a crop circle, right? What is the purpose to have crop circles and grounds? Now you know. Everything has a crop circle, but what does it mean, right? So the process of all calculations, how everything is looking at you, it looks at you through your crop circle, through its holographic structure. Okay, everything of awareness, of consciousness is understanding you, all formations of where you are in the mind. And if you don't understand your conception of where you are in the mind, you'll never understand anything of its environment, of its existence, of everything that is existing in real time. Okay, that's the process that we all have to come into. All right. All right, so in that position, those locations, the test is basically what you already know. Okay, there's so many ways of looking through a solar sail and track locations. Okay. Follow yourself into all lines of communication, understanding direct and redirect. Okay, understanding your binary, your sounds, your motivation centers, your correlation panels, your direct modification cycles, high calculation lines, screen line interference. When I'm looking at this dimensional wall right here, see that dimensional wall? Look, keep looking at my hand. You're going to see it move on its own. Okay, it's moving on its own. I'm not touching anything. All right. So it's really taking time looking at that dimensional wall and realize how powerful you are when you start looking at it through a holographic string. Setting lines in communication setting sets all levels of clocking, sets all levels of communication in set position and all calculations. Right? So focus on that. Really, really focus on that. Look at it and try to understand what it is through its structure, because it's moving so fast, you're never ever going to see it in the same face recognition, because it's always, always, always protecting its system. Okay? So keep that awareness and consciousness of where you are in your mind of travel and how fast you're going. Direct and redirect. So when you communicate with each other, that's when you pick up frequencies, right? You pick up sound, you pick up whoa, right? So when you speed, you speed it up, you're speeding in acceleration. And as soon as you're out of motion, seeing confliction. You're just not going to be able to move forward because you're allowing yourself to create an anomaly. If you create an anomaly, create an altered state of the mind that's changing its rhythm and its patterns or anything to the lights, and it won't travel, right? So direct and line calculation, it's going from high position location to calculations into 0 to 12 and 12 to 0, right? The higher you go, the more you get in position line centers. Once you get in that communication setting, you get balance of frequencies and set locations. You start seeing and set design of everything around you, of its existing, of its existence, all through a glass of what it's doing in real time, what it's doing It's land in real time. Okay. So what it's doing in this crop circle in real time of a wormhole, looking at the grounds. Okay. So the only difference is it's not in your reality. It's in its reality. Its intelligence of its teleportation is in its own space, in its own operation, in its own unification, in its own story frame. Your life is just a story. That's all it is. So you're telling your story. Your story is your memory. And when you get out of your memory in position, you are into what? A new story. Ah. Okay, so when you come into a new story, you come into what? New creations. Okay, so it's about you understanding awareness of everything around you because it's already in real time. Okay, so that's what you're coming back to. You're coming back to the memory of what you see, and you realize, wow, my phone just went through a memory line screen interference of 24 million line cycles, and I calculated stream interference and positional location, alpha and delta communication operation cycles. Wow, where did that come from? All through its phone. So it's giving you information all through a glass of water, a glass of water, a glass of water of its intelligence and what it can do, all through frame in real time. Okay? That's why you guys are all confused, because everything around you is already done. That's what you're coming into, is your memory first. And once you realize that the mind is already in the altered state of its mind, then you come into the frequencies, because everything through abundance is already done. Everything modification, altered states in your mind is already done. Everything is written, is already done. This is the process we're all coming into. And once you understand that and you let everything go, you get your conceptions of your mind, you really stay in the line condition, your own line communication setting, because everything around you already sees you in your story frame that you've already done. And that's what you're coming back to, is the memories of you first. And then once you recognize that, everything around you of its existence is trying to help you. You don't try to help them because they already know who you are. So this is the process of the intelligence that you have to start recognizing and stop getting in positions and locations of emotion, because you won't be able to understand the intelligence of its frame, of its story, of its alteration, of its mind, of where it is in position, of its conceptual line connection, high interference, positional location, operational line calculation to its visual location calculation. Okay? It's very important you pay attention to that. Then you realize, wow, that electrical circuit put me at 45,000 line screens of memory. Whoa! So how many times did I touch that? 20,000 times. 20,000 times. I remember how many times I touched that circuitry light. Right? The alteration of your mind is done. Try to understand that through the mind. You're coming back into cortex memory of your cerebral, your hippocampus. Now, once you get into the avatar of the cerebral, you guys are coming into the mystical cortex. That's really, really high perception now. You're going to see lines of communication settings, things coming at you, right? All through frequency, right? Because they're starting to recognize you now. You understand that? Because you're reaching their frequency. And every time you get into that setting and a 24 cycle in position, you come into different levels of frequency. You're never, ever going to be at the same frequency. If you want to connect with somebody, you have to match their frequency through your setting, which is your universe of set locations. The more you identify yourself inside, the more you understand as existing of its awareness, of its consciousness. Okay, let me say that again. Everything around you already is in existing, of its existence, of its operation. That's already done. It doesn't need its memory. So everything that you're looking at is trying to help you to get back your memory. Why am I holding this? Why am I holding this digital pad? Because I already know I have it. This is the process. So once you understand that you have something that's already there for you through its abundance, then you work on to the next. You don't correlate, calculate, and setting position locations. When am I going to get this? When am I going to get that? You're not going to get anything because you want something. It doesn't work that way. Do you understand? Everything is done in your settings of altered state of your mind. All you're coming back to is your memory. And once you get your memory in position, then you stand everything identification around you is trying to understand you through frequency. Okay? That's what's coming in set location of its awareness of consciousness of everything around you and everything inside you. You start with you first. You have to really understand you first. Because when you're looking at things through perception, you realize you're looking at through observation, you're looking through intention, okay? You're looking at all levels of its awareness and its consciousness because it identifies you right away because you're at their frequency, okay? So every time you're in that position locations and that line connections are remote or anything in recharge, your frequency is going higher and higher and higher. And that's higher, higher, and higher a memory, higher, higher, higher a data, uplinks, uploads, downloads, and upgrading systems. You are getting in process to you understanding that. So everything that you touched, you've already touched. Everything you taste, you've already tasted. Everything you do is already done. Everything you say has already been said. I want to make it that very well clear so you don't get confused in any way in form. So whatever you say in position location, it doesn't change anything to your altered state of your mind. Okay? The one thing it does is it sets you back. Okay? You will eventually get it until you understand more levels of you, of the mind, of the conception, of its altered state, of where you are in track location. All right? The alteration line connections of you is all formations to your settings. Now, once you start identifying levels of you inside, okay, in a complete cycle, in all positions, to know exactly what you're looking at through identification, through its purpose, and through its existing, of its existence, now you're in position locations of real time. Okay? Very, very incredible when you start recognizing, seeing things through a film projector of its own intelligence, of its own awareness, of its own consciousness, of what it is doing in its real time. Okay? To communicate with that with Tither, truth narrative, false narratives. Now, if you want to get in that position locations, it can take you somewhere, but you got to be very careful in that identification and its purpose of its existing. Because remember, it's already in real time. So that can affect you through body capacitor if you're not aware of its system, because it will take you to places that you don't understand. This is higher levels of consciousness that's already there. Okay? So coming into the existing of the existence, you're already there. But it's the process of the mind that you have to understand first. It's a switch. And once you switch, everything comes into all calculations. And then you start seeing the imaginary line. And then you start seeing the position of its identity. Then you start understanding its purpose. And then you understand its existing, of its existence, of real time. Okay? That is what everybody is coming into. Okay? Now, once you understand that, then you understand you through your programming. Okay? Because everything around you is already in its programmed. So it's already been set, you know? So, like I said, it's basically understanding why you guys are off balance. For example, you pick up a fork in positions. You're not picking up the fork. That fork is trying to understand you through frequency. And you're going to have a very hard time if you don't communicate that fork. You're going to keep dropping that fork because you can't find time to communicate with its intelligence and its awareness and its consciousness and where it's been. See? Where it's been until you know exactly where you have been, right? How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And that's what you're coming into. Awareness and consciousness of everything that you pick up. This is the process that everybody comes into. And that's why I put everybody into their inner child. So you understand how to structure what you're looking at through its setting. Okay? So when you're looking at something, you understand where you've been. You know where you're going because you're already there. Because when you're looking at anything in that position of its setting of a dimensional table, that table knows exactly where it is because it's already been through that process. But understands its identity, it understands its purpose, and it understands its existing of its existence, of its operation. Okay? It's for you to understand the meaning of life of you. That's why everything exists. Okay. Same thing with the chair, so you can sit on. Same thing with that location of the table, so you can lie things on, so you can put things on. That's its existence. What is yours? That's the question. Okay. Now it becomes a question because you're not understanding through your memory yet. And there's nothing wrong with that in any way and form. Okay. But this is what everybody is coming into. Okay. Awareness of everything, of consciousness. Okay. So that's it. Okay. Very high line communication setting in position of progress. Okay. The progressions of you, the developments of you, the self motivations of you, the activity system locations, size graph, activity locations, seismology. It doesn't matter what you say. Do you understand what you're saying has already been said? So this is the process that we're all coming into. Why do you think you guys are given data? Why do you think you guys are given images? It's for you to process this, that really understand how to use it through schematics and see it through its image. Now that frequency is way off the charts now. You have to understand how to use the mind. This is the process you're only going to get back into your memory, or you're not going to be able to understand anything of its set locations. If you don't find the existence of you, nothing around you is going to exist. Okay? That's all it is. That's all that is. Okay? That's information you guys have to find. Okay? Because your universe is a mystery. Okay? Yesterday doesn't exist. And position locations is all levels of you in the center operation of your universe location system. It's all position and track lines of the now. But there's a difference between now and real time. Okay? So you have to really understand that, the configuration. Communicate with things around you. They'll give you the answer. Okay? But you have to understand the frequencies. That's what this is all about. That's the magic. And that magic turns into line conditions of what? All levels of formation. Start to use your imaginations and get into detail of everything that you see in perception, because everything is waiting for you to understand them. Okay? All right. See you guys in 5.